Hi, this is Hubert here from the SiR Academy. We mentioned already in our previous chapters that the service integrated relationship is a full journey and that it's now time to think about how to redesign the existing processes in order to make sure that we transform delivery touchpoints into new encounters or co-owned encounters. Together with me, I have Olaf again. Olaf, the first thing is, when we're thinking about process redesign, how do we go about this? Is this something that we say, the customer experience as it is today, will we take, for instance, a kind of a journey with the customer of what the end user is experiencing? Or how do you do that?
Yes, well, when we see how SiR is moving into operational environments, first it is always with an attitude of respect. When we say like we need to change processes, sounds kind of heavy and restructuring, and we're not going to do that. So basically, processes were designed for the purpose they were designed for, which is great, to serve people, which is an important component of building great relationships, is do the things that you need to do. So generally the starting point is, let's just observe the current state of a process. Is it part of subject of a journey which has been designed? Has it already been optimized by lean methods? Is it subjected to total quality management and circles of evaluation and so on? So we just take our time to look at a process. But the most important thing is that we're looking at a process from an interest of bringing the past and the future of a relationship into this process. If you want to be successful in the future, it starts right now in the next encounter. And there we see that processes are very often, so focused on what they, need to perform right now in order to fulfill the urgent need of the customer, that they might forget these other aspects. So we're going to actually, what we're going to see is we're going to observe the processes and see which processes have the best opportunity of a window of opportunity to actually strengthen the relationship and make the role of the end user more proactive. Yes. So we're going to try and kind of put lights of relationship building and of co-creational effort of the customer into these processes, rather than saying the process is no good and this is not adding value. So we're actually building layers on top of a process rather than completely like shaking it up and which would not be beneficiary.
Yeah. I understand. So once we've done that, and of course, I believe it's also important to understand what is the tackiness, so to speak, in the relationship between supplier, service provider, product offering, end user, consumer, customer. Yeah. What is the glue, and how are you going to evaluate how close is the relationship? Yeah. Are we going to define that as well?
Yeah. So when we're looking at a good process, what is a good process? It's performance. So then when we're looking at a service environment, which is the traditional logic, like we provide service and people are happy. Then we're looking at speed, so responsiveness. We're looking at reliability. Processes need to be stable. We are looking at reassurance. That we are looking for people who are executing the process in competent ways. We're looking at escalation mechanisms, and so to reassure that things don't get out of hand. So we try to reduce the variance and the risk. We do that with Six Sigma methods and so on. Now the point is, when we're looking at SiR, we are introducing more metrics to kind of mirror against the process. Does the customer recognize itself in this process? That is like a quality characteristic. It means that, for instance, if you have a buffet in a restaurant, you can say like, well, it's a great buffet, it's professional, but I would not set it up myself this way at home. So this is not the way I would do it. But I appreciate the way you did, but I get, it's not mine. And that is kind of an alert. See, that we can say like, well, let's look at this buffet. The people who put it up are professional, but you know, how can we bring it closer, or how can we have the voice of the customer in that process? And probably it's the same people with the same ingredients who can create a successful outcome, a successful process. So it's probably the same resources, but it just requires a loop of interaction and so on that we probably forgot to include in that process. So we're bringing a lot of, you know, did we build intimacy? Actually, after this process is over, do we now know the customer a little better? Well, if you hold all the service processes of the world against that single criterion, then we should acknowledge, or very often acknowledge, that a process, that we forgot a few things. See? So in a SiR logic, we're not saying that what you're doing, or that you should spend more time with the customer. I didn't say that. But we're looking for opportunities to also meet a number of other quality characteristics that are more relational, and also did we leave the customer, for instance, like a more active role, and did we leave opportunity for him to interact? Okay,
so basically what you try to do is to have the customer or the end user as a resource, like a customer as a resource, the SiR, so to speak. But isn't that going to be difficult in order to say, can you involve all customers in that, I would say, collaborative way of working? Because then, where are you going to say this is relevant or not relevant? Just like you said in the buffet, I wouldn't do it myself at home. I do it otherwise. But you cannot ask all people what their ideas are as a customer related to that buffet. How are you going to deal with that?
We come back to the essence of service integrated relationship, which is Goodwill differentiated service. Because if we know the level of Goodwill before starting the process, if the customer Goodwill is high, then we know that the customer is more likely to invest his time, skills, capability, expertise, network into the process. It means that we have access to the customer resources, and we should integrate those in our process. So the biggest kind of wake-up call for process owners and designers is that we have always thought that the only resource of the customer is his money, or is eventually, or satisfaction. It's a positive response to that process. But the point is that customers can bring way more resources to the process, and we should see how we integrate it with our own resources. But of course, having those resources is one, but being willing and having the goodwill to invest them, and that is something that we should check a priori with the customer, and therefore we need to know the level of goodwill of every customer.
Thank you so much. Now, the other thing and the last thing is, of course, that you say, okay, what are the mechanisms in order to have that kind of catching the cooperation or the co-ownership of a certain topic or element or process, action or activity? How do you see that?
Well, it's interesting. We, in economic terms, we know the investment logic. When we invest, then we want to own something. And the problem is that when we propose the customer to invest time, money, and so on, that is not, it doesn't come, let's say, for free, so to say. So the point is that the customer wants to have some control over it, and also some return on it. So in terms of debriefing, in terms of, okay, well, I have now invested in this, can you warrant that next time when I go through this process again, that we will do it my way? So there's, a process is not just finished and done. There's like obligations, because the customer, after finishing the process and having contributed to its success, remains owner of that process over time, and we need to document that. And so we have obligations towards the customer, but of course that customer will bring so much more value to this process and also to the relationship in the future. So customer ownership is the end state, and that is really important within SiR. It's not so much the ambassadorship, that is one, but we prefer actually customer ownership over ambassadorship.
Thank you so much. So if we're talking about the process redesign, where we are looking for new, I would say, relationship with the end user or customer, as it was said, customer ownership, so to speak, then of course this track will teach you all of that in order how to come to this point where you can definitely have a more successful redesign of your existing processes to come to a more service integrated relationship. Thank you.